By far, the most frequently asked question I get during my live streams is what do you think will be added in the next Grounded update? Since I get asked this question several times every time I stream Grounded, I decided to just make a video answering that question. In this video, I'll be discussing what we know for sure will be added in the next update, what is likely to be added, what is possible, and what I'd like to see added. Make sure to hit the subscribe button below and turn on notifications so you never miss any future videos. Let's get started. So first things first, let's talk about when the next update's going to be. It's going to be in early 2022, and we know that because it was included in the trailer that the devs released for a new insect that's coming in the game, which we'll talk about in just a second. Now, best case scenario is it would be sometime in January, probably towards the end of it. I don't think that's likely. I think it's more likely to be either middle or end of February, just because with the Christmas holiday and the winter time off between Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and everything, I would imagine the devs are probably going to take a little bit of time off. Development might slow down a little bit. And we all know that the updates that have been coming lately have been much bigger. The Shroom and Doom update, the Hot and Hazy update were much larger than all the previous updates. And with that being said, they're probably going to take a good 3 to 4 months to put it out. So best case scenario, I can see the update being sometime in January with the public test server being mid-January. But more likely, it's probably going to be public test server sometime in February with the release either mid to late February. And the one thing that we definitely know for sure is going to be added in that update, unless something goes wrong, is going to be termites. Now, there was a video for the termites being shown on Twitter. The quality of it, honestly, was not that great. I would be showing it right now, but it was just not that great. I'll leave a link for that in case you missed it down in the description below, so you can go watch it. It's about a 30-second video where it shows the termites. Doesn't really say much about them, just that they're being added in the game. And with them definitely being added, that's going to be one new insect. So right now, that's the only thing we definitely know is going to be added. So far, there's been nothing else mentioned. There's a lot of speculation about things. So let's talk about what's likely to be added. Now, I just checked in my crafting menu. And prior to, I'm not sure exactly when the update took this out, but at some point, at least during the public test server, maybe afterwards, when I went into creative, there were a couple of crafting items down here in the crafting menu, which I don't see any longer. And they were the ant pheromone and coziness meter. Now, ant pheromone is definitely listed on the feature board on the Obsidian website for Grounded. So we know that's going to be coming at some point. And what that's going to do is most likely allow us to somehow control the behavior of the ants. I'm not sure if it's going to be the red ants, the black ants, maybe some other ants. And we don't know anything more than that. Coziness meter didn't really have anything. And when you clicked on it, it actually crashed the game. So maybe that's why they took it out of here. It probably wasn't supposed to be in the game files to begin with. But it's not here, as you can see. It's not showing up on any of the building pieces. And I would imagine what that would be something along the lines of how the comfort meter works in Valheim and probably similar other survival games where building certain things inside of your base or around where your bed's located will increase your comfort level, or in this case, your coziness level. I think that's what it's going to be, which would probably give you some types of buffs. So maybe it either gives you hunger and thirst drain lasts longer, or maybe your stamina depletes slower, something along those lines. Don't know anything beyond that, but I would imagine that's probably what it's most likely going to be. Now, with that all being said, if the ant pheromone's coming, more likely than not, the ant queen is probably going to be coming with that. So I think it's likely the ant queen could be added in the next update. The ant queen is supposed to be another boss. Now, ant queens, from what I know, I don't think they're actually aggressive. So I think what more likely will be happening is we have to get to the ant queen and fight off a horde of ants that are probably protecting her. So the colony of ants, soldier ants, are probably going to be protecting her. And we'll probably have to fight them off. I think that's probably what would happen. So if the ant queen possibly could get added, and we'll talk about where she's going to get added, most likely if she does get added, in just a minute. But while we're over here in the sandbox, I think the sandbox is going to kind of be like the haze from the previous update. So in Shroom and Doom, the haze lab was opened up over here, but only had like a couple rooms in it. Same thing goes here for the sandbox lab outpost, which was added in the Hot and Hazy update. So if we go in here now, if you haven't been in here, you can just maybe look away. I'm not going to really spoil much. There's actually not much in here, honestly, so it's not really that big of spoilers, except for the fact that there's just really nothing in here. It's like a single room, and perhaps this is going to be left like this, but I think more likely than not, what's going to end up happening is this lab's going to be expanded, and or over here underneath the sandcastle is going to be expanded upon, perhaps connecting the two of them. So we're going to head over here behind the sandcastle real quick, because there is actually a rock over here, or a tunnel over here that's blocked by a large rock. So I think what's most likely going to happen in the next update is the sandbox is going to get updated, kind of like how in the Hot and Hazy update, they finished off the haze, and then they added the trash heap, the black anthill, the sandbox, and the picnic table. They updated all those. But you're going to see right down here behind the sandcastle, there's actually a tunnel down here, and it is blocked off by a rock, which we cannot get through. So almost guaranteed there's no reason they would have made this unless there's going to be a tunnel. So I'm expecting in the next update for us to be able to either get from here over to the sandbox lab outpost that we were just in, or maybe there'll just be two separate areas that we have to go to, and perhaps there'll be something down there. Now, I think that's almost surely going to be added. With that, maybe a new insect comes to the sandbox. I don't know. There's been talk of other insects, which I'll discuss a little bit later on. I think the most likely insect that they could add to the sandbox, at least in my opinion, would be a centipede. That would kind of make sense, because I think they like hot areas, and if it was underneath the sandcastle, maybe as like a mini boss, or maybe if there was just a couple of them under there, that'd be pretty interesting. So I think that's definitely... This area, I think it's almost surely going to be updated in the next update. It would be really weird if they just left it how it was and didn't add it, or didn't update it. And then with that, I think the other thing that's going to be updated is we're going to see it off in the distance. We're going to head over here, and I'm going to skip ahead real quick, is going to be the shed up there. So let's run over there real quick, and we'll talk about why the shed is almost surely going to be updated in the next update. Okay, so I made my way over to the shed. The shed is in the top left corner, the northwestern corner of the map. And every time I get asked what's going to be updated next, aside from the sandbox, I always say this top left corner of the map. The reason I say this is it kind of makes sense. They're working their way around this side of the map, so this part down here has all been updated now. The trash heap may be getting a little bit more love to it, because it does have some little bit of weirdness to some of the terrain over there, but that would just be cleaning stuff up, I would imagine. I think the sandbox is obviously going to get updated. The picnic table area seems like it's mostly populated, but this area up here on top of the retaining wall and up here by the shed has pretty much nothing up here except for some placeholder grass. However, after the Hot and Hazy update, or when the Hot and Hazy update dropped, they ended up doing a ton of terraforming back here. I may have talked about this in other videos. I'm sure you've seen it in other videos. But the reason I think this is going to be getting the next update is because of all the work they've done behind here. So you can walk right through this. You can do it in survival too. It's just a placeholder. Got our little chef up here. Now, before this update, this was back here, but this was kind of just like flat. Now, if you come back here, you're going to see there is a massive chasm down here, which almost surely is going to be a lab. And I think that this is either going to be, in my opinion, a termite colony down here, or it's going to be a new ant hill where the ant queen could be. I think if they're going to add the ant queen in the next update, it would most likely be somewhere over here under the shed, and somehow have the termites over here. I don't know how they would interact. I'm not that knowledgeable of how insects interact with each other, but with all this update over here, this was all perfectly flat under here before. They did all that over there, that giant chasm, and then you're going to see over here there's even more work. So perhaps maybe this could be where the termites are, and then over here could be where the ant queen would be, maybe deep inside some kind of ant tunnel or ant cave system layer, and I think that would be pretty interesting. So the shed, I think, is almost surely going to be updated next time. I don't want to say sure, it's likely to be updated. I think this is very likely to be updated. I don't think they would have did all this terraforming up here if they weren't going to update it in the very near future. Now, aside from that, I think things that are likely to be added are going to be more milk molars and mega milk molars. I don't even know if I've actually unlocked them all in here. Probably not. Maybe I have, but I'd have to go over to Burgle to check, and I don't know if I got them all in here. But basically, what you can do is if you get all the milk molars, all the mega milk molars right now, it's only enough to level up about half the stats in the game. I think maybe even a little bit less. And the devs did say there's going to be more added. So at some point, we're going to be able to upgrade all of our stats using the mega molars and the milk molars. So I think it's almost a guarantee that in the next update, they're going to add some more of them. How many more they add, I'm not sure. I would imagine they'll probably scatter them across the map. So I'm guessing they're only going to update this top left corner of the map. And then this area over here will probably be the next one after that. I can't imagine they're going to update this entire northern part of the map here. This is a giant chunk of the map. If you look at it, it's probably about equal size to what's already been updated for the most part. Maybe a little bit smaller, but this is going to be a massive undertaking. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't take 3 updates for this to be updated. Now, there is a little bit of speculation that perhaps the termites could be down here in the deck. And there's not really much going on with the deck. The deck does periodically have stuff on it, like there was a jack-o'-lantern up there. And other than that, there's really not much up there. I think there might be a paint can or something, but it's kind of like barren up there. So it's a possibility the termites could be in the deck. I think that's a lower probability. I think more likely they're going to be up here by this wooden shed, along with possibly a new ant hill and the ant queen. So I think that's more likely. And like I said, I think they'll add a couple molars, mega milk molars up here somewhere, and probably scatter them up in the shed. I imagine we'd probably be able to go like up inside the shed because it's pretty tall. Maybe there's be ways to get up it via shelves, or I don't know if there was a downspout or not. I don't think there is. But I would imagine they're not going to add all the milk molars and mega milk molars that are going to be coming in the future. I think they're going to save some of them from over here and perhaps parts of the yard over here, which are not updated, and maybe even the deck if they do something with that, or the house later on. That would make sense. So I think we can expect to see those. Now, I don't know if I actually have one equipped here, but no, I do not in this creative world that I have. I think this is almost, I'd almost put this under definite, but I can't say definite because obviously I don't know. I think it is highly likely that the Antlion Greatsword is going to get nerfed. This sword does way too much damage. It kills everything in the game way too quickly, in my opinion. It will consistently kill wolf spiders on medium mode in 4 hits. Sometimes if you get a double crit, you can actually kill them in 2 hits. It just basically slays almost everything. Even the insects it's weak against, like the lightning bug, only take 5 hits. If you get a bunch of crits, if you get lucky with the coup de grace and get a couple crits, you can kill a roly-poly with a spicy Antlion Greatsword level 7 in 5 to 6 hits. I've killed them that fast. At worst, it's probably going to take maybe like 8, 9, or 10, depending on if it heals or if it rolls away from you. But this weapon, to me, I don't like seeing things nerfed, but I think this weapon is just way too unbalanced, and it is a little bit of a pain to get sometimes because the RNG on the Antlion pincers can be pretty poor. The first time I went and tried to get it in survival, the pincers, I farmed, I think, every Antlion that was in the sandbox, and I only got like 2 pincers. But then the next time I went through and did it, I think I got like 12 or 13. So it's really RNG. It's almost like a 50-50 whether or not they're going to give you 1. But they do only drop at most 1. So if you maybe you have to kill, probably have to kill like 14 or 15 of them in order to get enough to make the sword. And then, of course, you might have to repair it. But the Blade Master, that's another story. Blade Master can repair it too. Blade Master might also get changed because I think Blade Master combined with this weapon is just way, way, way too strong. I would imagine, honestly, if it was me, it does 5 damage base. I think it will be fair if they cut it back to about 3.5. That would probably make it a little bit more fair. So it'd still be a tier 3 weapon. But if these are tier 3 weapons and there's a chance there's going to be tier 4 weapons, imagine how much damage would a tier 4 weapon do. Now, of course, there could be stronger insects added in the future. They did say the sickly roly-polies that are in the game will either them or there will be another version of them that will not be sickly, that'll be much harder to kill. So that might be needing a level 4 weapon or the current version of the Antlion Greatsword. But right now, I just think that this is the new Mint Mace. So prior to the Hot and Hazy update, I think I can speak for the majority of players, probably run a Mint Mace with either Spider Armor or Ladybug Armor. Now, pretty much everybody's just running an Antlion Greatsword, upgrading it Spicy, because that's the one that's going to do the most damage to the most insects, and it just shreds through everything. So I think this is almost surely going to get nerfed in some way, probably have the damage either reduced or the speed reduced somehow, one or the other or a combination of both. So I think we can see that. I'd also think that it's more likely than not we're going to get a couple mutations. So this last update added Spicy Safety, Truffle Tussle, and what were the other ones? Blade Master. I'm not even sure if I have them unlocked on here. I probably don't. I think the other one was Parry Master. So we got 4 new mutations in this last update, which was a major update. I'd expect us to get between 2 and 4 new mutations. What they would be, I'm not sure. Maybe because we're over here in the shed. I don't know. I don't even know what they could possibly be. If you have any ideas for what the new mutations could be, let me know down in the comments. Didn't really think about it that much, but I would imagine we're probably going to get more mutations just because every time there's been a major update recently, they've added a couple mutations. The one before that, the Shroom and Doom, gave us Mom's Jeans and one other one. I can't remember which one it was, but it was Mom Jeans and something else. Well, it was Mithridatism, Mom's Jeans. Yeah, I think those were the 2 that it added. There might have been more, I can't remember. Anyway, I think we're almost surely going to get that. Now, a couple other things I think they might tweak are going to be, they might tweak the brain power system. They already did that once. And they may end up tweaking the meal system and the Burgle swap shop cost. I think those are likely to be adjusted in some way. Do we have foods on here? Yeah. So honestly, right now, I don't really use meals. The only time I use a meal is when I was fighting the Broodmother. Other than that, unless I find them in the treasure chests that are inside of the sandbox, I pretty much never use them. I almost never make them unless I'm doing some kind of testing. I can basically just live off of roasts because the roasting spit right now is busted. That's another thing that I think that's likely to get patched, unfortunately. Right now, the roasting spit, if you leave roasts on it, they will never spoil as long as you don't take them off. You can eat it, then put another one on, it will never spoil. So it's essentially like a refrigerator that just keeps the meat good forever. I think that's almost surely going to get patched because that just completely breaks the meal system. And right now, like I said, I can live off of those. Honestly, I can even live off the snacks. I can live off of acorns, mushrooms, and algae if I have to, because you really just don't get that hungry and thirsty, especially if you're using the juicy mutation, or if you're just not doing a ton of running around. Maybe if you're using, I use light armor, so I tend to burn less stamina anyway. But I think that's almost surely going to get adjusted somehow as the meal system. And the Burgle swap shop, honestly, right now, there's a lot of things that Burgle sells. I think they kind of have it backwards. Like the cosmetic stuff costs a lot, and the useful stuff a lot of it costs too little in my opinion. For example, I have to pay 4,000 to get each sign set, but I only have to pay 2,500 to get the smithing station, and I can get the smithing station like right away. I think it's one of the first tips you give Burgle. You can buy the smithing station from him. Another thing along the lines of the meal system, I think it's kind of weird that the meal system right now, you can unlock when you go to, so typically, I can't speak for everyone, but I think the normal course of action when you start the game is you repair the mysterious machine, you go to Burgle, and then most people either do the Koi Pond lab or they're going to do the hedge lab. Those are probably going to be the first two they do. And of course, the one that's over here is the, there's a chip over here in the anthill, but the two labs that you're going to complete, which is where you're going to end up getting cookbooks for the meals, are either going to be the Koi Pond or the hedge lab. Now, both of those have cookbooks. And in my new survival world, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, oh, let's try out some meals. I went and bought those cookbooks and then quickly realized that I had wasted thousands of raw science because you can't cook them without an oven, and the oven is locked behind the chip that's in the haze lab, which more likely than not, you're not going to complete first. I mean, you could do it, I guess. If you want to craft yourself a gas mask, you could do it, but I think the normal way people play is either doing the Koi Pond or hedge lab, those two, 1-2 or 2-1, and then going the haze lab. So I think it would make sense if somehow the cookbook options were adjusted and not put in there. And then I just think, like I said, I think the overall cost of a lot of the items that are in Burgle's swap shop need to be reworked a little bit because it's honestly way too expensive to get everything now. On my new survival world, I'm at about 180 days, and I still haven't bought, I think, 4 of the sign sets. I bought everything else. I have not been doing the daily quests every single day, but I've been doing them enough, and I still have 4 left to buy, which is 16,000 more raw science. And I think for a casual player, an average player that just doesn't play the game that often, or maybe plays it once or twice a week, it's going to take them way too long to unlock everything. And so I think the cost of things need to come down. I think they need to be reversed a little bit, where the things that are more important cost more and the things that are cosmetic cost less, just so it feels like more sense of progression, or maybe it's more rewarding to get like the smithing station. I think the smithing station should probably cost like 4,000 or 5,000. I'd also love to see, this is more like a little bit of a tangent, I'd love to see backpack slots be added to Burgle Swap Shop somehow, but that's another story for another day. So those are the things I think are likely. Now let's quickly talk about things that are possible. Now, one thing that was added in the Hot and Hazy update, which was a complete surprise to me, I honestly was not expecting this to be added, is the smithing station. It's all the way down here. The smithing station was added in the Hot and Hazy update. What this does is it allows you to upgrade your weapons. They added the ability to upgrade weapons. I think it's possible they're going to allow us to upgrade armor either in the next update or one after that. I can't imagine they're not going to let us somehow manipulate our armor and make it better. It kind of wouldn't make sense to just let us do our weapons and not our armor. So I think armor upgrades are possible in the next update. Along the lines with that is going to be some new insects. So I think in the game files, I think there might be grasshoppers and praying mantises, something along those lines. I've heard those mentioned in other videos by a couple different people. It would make sense to have either or of those insects up here in the northern part of the yard. I'd really love a praying mantis that just wanders around the yard and eats all the wolf spiders. That'd be fantastic. I can't imagine that's what they would do, but you know, if they added a praying mantis, imagine you're walking through here and there's just a praying mantis that's just sitting on the grass, blending in with it. That might give me a jump scare more than a wolf spider does. And then other than that, and of course the termites, which we know for sure are coming in the next update. I mentioned the ant queen earlier. I think another insect that might be added in a flying insect up here could possibly be a wasp. So wasps can build nests underground, but they do, I usually see them, at least where I live, I see them building them either up in trees or attached to like wooden buildings specifically. So I think there's a chance there could be a wasp nest either on the outside of the shed up here or on the inside of it, and that would be a new flying insect. Now wasps, I think, are in either the original trailer or they were on one of the loading screens or something for the game, and they've never made their way into the game, but if they're going to add a new flying insect, I think it would make sense to add wasps to the game. Aside from that, they did just do a Twitter question where they asked, what pet would you like to have next? And my answer was a red worker ant. Of course, after I said that, I said that because red worker ants would be nice, because if you watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which this game is loosely based off of, the kids in that movie get shrunk, they befriend a little ant, and the ant rides them back to the house. It actually ends up giving its life to save them. And what they end up doing is taming the ant. They use it to ride on. So imagine you could ride a red worker ant in this game, or in addition to that, it could actually gather resources for you. I think that would be fantastic. If the red worker ant could take you across the yard, it could maybe even pull your pallets, because honestly, being able to relocate pallets is kind of silly to me. I don't understand why they let us do it. It's very convenient. They might not take it out because A lot of times in games like this, when things like that are in the game, once players become accustomed to them, they don't take them out, even though it's kind of game breaking to be able to just pick up a pallet and relocate it without having to have to carry it. If they allowed us to tame red worker ants or some other larger insect, and it could actually pull the pallets for us, I think that would be pretty interesting. And last but not least, if the red worker ant could possibly go out and gather resources for us. So maybe it could go get us some weevil meat, or it could get us some aphid honeydew, stuff like that. Even plant fire that's laying on the ground, it can bring one back at a time. Now, the only issue I think might be, how would they interact if you had a pet weevil and a pet red ant? Would the red ant attack them, or would they be nice to each other? I don't know how that would work, so that's just possibly something. Also, I think there's a good chance we're going to get some type of new weapons or tools in the game. More likely than not, I think we're going to get a tier 3 hammer and a tier 3 axe. And my speculation along that lines is, I think if they're adding termites to the game, I'm guessing they're going to have something to do with wood added to the game. So if they add some type of wood added to the game, perhaps wood building structures, which is another one of my possibles that could be added. I have not heard anybody mention this before, although it does seem logical. The termites do like to eat wood. It would make sense if in the future they attacked our bases or something like that, if we built out of wood, the termites could eat through them. So imagine if there was a termite axe that we could actually craft and cut and somehow gather wood, whether it be wood shavings or something from the shed, or just chopping parts off the tree or something like that. Maybe a branch falls and we can chop it up and make wood, and that axe would be made out of termite parts. That would make sense. Also a tier 3 hammer. I think both of those are in the game files right now anyway, so there's placeholders for those. And then, of course, there's always the possibility that they're going to add a tier 3 weapon for each type of weapon. So right now there's no tier 3 spear, and there's no tier 3 dagger, I don't believe. I think the highest dagger is a level 2, right? There's the spider fang dagger, and then of course we have the bone dagger down here. So there's no level 3 dagger. There's only level 2 daggers, level 2 spears. And then of course right now, not sure why they didn't make the crow crossbow tier 3. I guess they could just bump that up to tier 3. There's also a chance they could add a tier 3 bow to the game as well. Although it might make more sense just to upgrade this one and change its stats a little bit so it's better than the insect bow. But anyway, now of course I mentioned new building pieces. Right now we have a ton of building pieces in the game. We have grass, we have weed stems, and we have mushroom blocks. People love building pieces. There's some building pieces in here that I'd like to see, like quarter walls and vertical half walls or vertical quarter walls, that hopefully they'll add. And then there's also no half stem floor piece. But I think it would make sense if they had termites to allow us to also harvest wood some way. So maybe it could go, the grass is the lowest, then we'd have sturdy be tier 2, stem will be tier 3, mushroom will be tier 4, I guess, and then the wood will be tier 5, or maybe the mushroom and the wood are the same level, but mushroom's good against termites and most things, whereas the wood would not be good against them, something along those lines. I think that would be interesting. Also, one thing that's been mentioned by several people and speculated is a cold biome. So underneath the shed up here, oh, it's getting dark. So let me sleep real quick so it gets daytime. All right, so now it's morning. Under the shed here with this giant deep area, it's been speculated they might add a cold biome over here, and I think that would make sense because they did just add a sizzling biome or a hot biome over in the sandbox. So it would make sense to have the opposite, where we somehow have to get some type of resource that keeps us warm. Maybe they could put a cooler in here or a refrigerator, or it could just be some kind of, just because it's underground far enough it's cold or something like that. So I think that might be coming. And then one thing that did not get added in the Hot and Hazy update, which I was kind of surprised, they didn't add any new achievements. Now, I got the achievements just to get them. I'm not an achievement hunter. I play a game. If I beat it and get all the achievements, great. If I go look at it and there's some achievements that I missed but they're easy to get, I'll go back and just grab them real quick. But I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit there and try to 100% achievement every game I play. That's just not, I'm not that interested in it, especially if some of them are like super grindy and take forever. But I know a lot of people love achievements, and they love when they added the achievements to this game. So I think it's possible they could add 2, 3, 4 new achievements with this next big update. That would make sense if they add a couple more of those over the future. And then the last couple things I wanted to talk about that I think are unlikely, but I'd love to see, and I've talked about these many times, it's going to be new traps, because right now we don't have a lot of traps. Right now all we have are, I think we have 2 traps. What do we have? The tripwire bomb trap. We have the spike strip, and then the lure trap, I guess, could be considered a trap. I made a video on traps. I'll leave a link for that down in the description in case you're interested in the ones I mentioned of that. I came up with a bunch of ideas. Other people have come up with different ideas. And I think in the future they're going to add base raids. They were base raids when the game initially launched, and then they were taken out because they weren't working properly. and now there's no base raids. I would love to be able to build a base in this game and have my base get attacked periodically. Now, I know some people don't like that. They just want to play a casual survival game. That's why I've always suggested having it where you could either toggle it on or off, or maybe the difficulty level determines if there's raids. Maybe mild doesn't have it, or maybe medium doesn't have it. Maybe you have to play a different difficulty that had woe mode. Maybe medium woe have it, whatever. Where it's optional, or it could just be after you complete the story, it's optional to continue playing the game beyond the story and have base raids on or off. So I think that would be awesome. But with that, we would need more traps. So if you have any ideas for traps, or if you have ideas for how base raids will work, let me know down in the comments below. Those are the two things that I would love to see added to this game. And if they were added to this game, I could definitely see myself playing this game for years to come. Because right now, we're not sure what's going to happen once the story's finished. We're not sure how much replayability there's going to be. There is mention on the feature board that they are going to have player-built content or something along those lines. So perhaps we can build our own stuff like that. That'd be fantastic. But I'd love to see more traps added to the game so we could come up with some cool ways of farming insects, as well as defending ourselves if base raids are added. And then last but not least, I don't think this is going to come in the next update, but it would make sense right now. It's on the feature board. That's weather. So right now we live in this great, perfect place where I think everybody would choose to live, where it's just sunny during the day and then it turns night. There's not really any wind. There's just a couple clouds here and there. There's no rain, no precipitation. It doesn't seem to get cold. They're definitely going to add weather in the future at some point. We don't know when. I think now would be a perfect time to add snow. So this update's going to be coming out in January, February, which is midwinter for us here in the United States and in the Northern Hemisphere. It's when we get our snow here. And I think it would make sense if they're going to add, if they thought about adding weather sooner rather than later, maybe they could just add periodic snow where it just makes it cold. And that would tie along the lines of having to get some kind of new resource that would allow us to stay warm, or maybe you have to just be near a fire every so often. And it would also possibly be able to counteract the sizzling effect. So maybe when it's snowing, the sizzling effect over there isn't active because it's just not sunny out and it's just cold. So those are the things I think are definite. The termite's definite. Then I mentioned a bunch of things I think are likely. Ant pheromone, coziness meter, ant queen. Obviously the sandbox getting updated. I think the shed's most likely going to get updated. More milk molars and mega milk molars. I'm almost positive the antlion greatsword's going to get nerfed or balanced down. I'd expect to see some new mutations and then maybe some tweaks to the current systems they added to the game, the brain power meal system and the burgle swap shop. Possible things, armor upgrades. I think that's going to come in the future at some point, just not sure if it's going to be coming in the next update or not. I don't think they're just going to add one insect, so I'd imagine they're going to add more. So possible ones are going to be grasshopper, praying mantis, and wasp. They've been asking about new pets, so I think it's possible they're going to add new pets. And then, of course, the tier 3 axe, hammer, bow, dagger, and spear. It would make sense to add a different tier 3 for each level. And the axe and the hammer, I believe, are currently in the game files. Maybe a new building material, since termites are coming, wood. The new biome where it would be cold, or maybe they add cold weather. And then, of course, achievements. And then, like I said, I'd love for them to add base raids and new traps sooner rather than later. So those are the things I think are coming in the next big update, which is going to be early 2022, either January or February, in my opinion. I think January is probably a little bit unlikely. I think it's more likely to be February, and I think February is probably worst case. I can't imagine it would drag out to March. If it does, that's okay. We'll just find some stuff to do in between. But let me know what you think is coming in the next update, whether you agree or disagree with what I said. If you thought this video was helpful, make sure you hit the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.